Okay. Welcome, everybody. Thank you. There's a little bit of technical difficulties. We're still waiting on a couple people. This is the very first episode of Icons of Horror, broadcasting live from Kenduskeag, Maine, right up here in Stephen King country, about 10-15 minutes away from where he lives. I came up with this idea. A lot of things have been canceled. We've had, COVID kind of changed the landscape of things a little bit, and they've canceled a lot of the haunted houses and things that we have up in this area. And I thought it would be really fun to kind of create my own, give everybody a treat, and create my own little horror convention. And I just had it was amazing. We did have one up in Bangor just recently, and I had an opportunity to meet some. I met Bill Mosley and some other people up here, but there's so what I decided to do is invite some guests from some of the movies that really kind of touched me. And so I have, let me go around the room here. I have Simon Bamford from Nightbreed and the Hellraiser movies. I have Barbie Wilde from Hellraiser. Had John Dugan. I'm not sure if he's in the second room here. Okay, I'm waiting on John Dugan and Nicholas Vince. We did have some problems. Looks like we lost John. And I hope to get him back from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And let me see here. Okay, and okay. Let me start. I came up with some questions, and while I'm getting John, let me start with this goes out to the whole room. What inspired you to become an actor, and who attracted you to the horror genre? Can I start with Simon, please?
I was attracted to the horror genre by Fangoria magazine, which was only horror magazine that I lived in a little village in England, and it was the only horror magazine that was around at the time. And all the other kids were trying to get the porn magazines off the top shelf, and I was trying to get Fangoria. And it was Clive Barker that introduced me to the whole world. I worked with him in theatre before he was well known, and it was through that I ended up doing the Hellraiser film, which was my first film and his first film and Doug Bradley's first film, and pretty much all of our first films. So it was lucky that it came together so well with so many wonderful people in it.
Nice. Thank you. Barbie, how about you?
Well, I knew I wanted to be an actress when I was cast in a play called The Mighty Germ when I was 12. And it was all about, funnily enough, about the cold virus, right? And how bad it can be, and how you have to cover your mouth when you sneeze. And I was not a popular kid, and I was the teacher, and I developed this sneeze that looked like what happened to at the end of the Day of the Jackal. They shoot him, and he goes bouncing back, about 20 feet or something. And I did this sneeze where I bounced back, and the whole auditorium of kids laughed at my fabulous acting, not at me being a nerd and a geek and all this sort of stuff. And I thought, I love this. I'm up for this. And so that's it. And then eventually went to drama school.
I think they can all see me, right?
Parker.
Yeah. And then finally, I came to London.
Try to see if I can see everybody else on the call. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing them at the moment.
Okay.
Okay.
And
then I went to drama school in the UK and started acting, but mostly in the music business. And it was actually a fluke getting the audition for Hellraiser, because I nearly didn't go, as I've often said at conventions, because the first film scared me too much. I mean, it was intriguing, but I thought, oh, no, I don't want to play a sucky monster.
I don't know.
But I did. I went to the audition, and that there within became my career in horror, but I was a jobbing actress, and before that I was
No,
in the
that's
music
showing up on my
business.
screen. It's weird.
Why are all these people talking when I'm
Oh,
talking?
excuse me. Yeah, excuse me. Hey, Parker, you're on my call. You need to stop talking, please.
What's up, the mic?
Thank you. That's
It's
my
like-
son,
like
Parker. I'm sorry.
He's
It's
calling
okay.
in.
And I really apologize for that. Okay, go good.
I
Please.
just demand everyone's attention.
Yeah.
always.
No, that is perfect, Barbie. Please. I mean, and I was trying to get his attention. He's in the other room, and I really apologize for that.
No,
So go ahead.
that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
No,
go
but previous to that, I was in a film called Death Wish 3, which
Mhm.
was, of course, notorious for not only having Charles Bronson in it, but Michael Winner as well, who's got a bit of a interesting reputation. And that was fun, but it was quite sort of off the wall for me to go. Because to be honest, even though I watched a lot of horror movies when I was a kid, and I loved The Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, all that stuff, I wasn't I'd seen all the big horror movies, including Hellraiser. It was considered, who is this new man of horror, Clive Barker? Oh my God, it's so outrageous. So I went to see the film, and it was brilliant because he had invented a new kind of monster, and they were as one clever. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but didn't some American female studios that because they were trying to find the right title for the film, and they didn't think the Hellbound Heart, it sounded like a romance, and somebody suggested Sadomasochists from Hell. And
That was Clive.
Yes. Oh right, no, I thought it was something
That was
else.
Clive's suggestion.
What do you want to call it? Sadomasochists from Hell. But and that's what it was, and I wasn't used to seeing stuff like that, so it was very intriguing and wonderful. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Nice. Thank you. And Nicholas, you're back. I'm really happy to see that. And the technical and I apologize for everybody who's watching this. A little technical difficulties. This is the first time I've ever tried to get multiple people on this Facebook Messenger thing. It's brand new, and there's always a little glitch. I mean, the next time I do this, it's going to be a lot smoother. And we had Nicholas Vince, the Chatterer from Hellraiser. He was the very first. In the Hellraiser movie, he was the first character that I saw walk. I think you were the first one on. You came through the wall 1st, right? Yeah. And
strictly, yeah.
And
sorry, Christopher.
That scene really. I think the thing that was striking to me was, I mean, the way you're reaching out and those two fingers in her mouth up against the wall define the whole what was going to be happening from that point forward. And it absolutely, I mean, that right there really hooked me on the whole Hellraiser Cenobite lore. I mean, that was just, and I have, in fact, I went up to, was that Spencer's up here. They sell the all of the action figures of that time, and the Chatterer was my very first one to actually, and he still works. The battery, I think the thing's immortal. I've had it for.
Wow.
God, I mean, it's absolutely amazing. He still chatters. I mean, which is, I think he must have his own heart, which is fantastic. But could you what inspired you, Nicholas? I mean, to get into acting, and do you go all the way back to the dog company?
No, I don't. Simon does, and Simon can tell you more about the dog company. But I was acting since I was a kid. Every school. When I say a kid, I mean like 6 years old, something like, just out of kindergarten, primary school. I was in the plays and every chance I could get. And then, but the way Hellraiser came about was because I happened to go to a party and I met Clive, and he invited me to model for him. So you can see bits of me. You can clearly see my face on the on volume 1 of the Books of Blood, the UK hardback edition, and volume 4. That's definitely my portrait that Clive did of me. So yeah, I've been working with Clive as a model for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years before he mentioned Hellraiser. But you mentioned the 2 fingers going into Ashley's mouth, and I'll say again, what I always say is that it's Ashley who sells that moment. It wasn't in the script; it was something Clive came up with on the day, and it's Ashley who sells that moment as by opening her mouth in shock, rather than going yeah. Which I all kudos to Ashley.
Wonderful. Thank you. Then Simon, I got to thinking about the dog company. Could you talk a little bit about how did that all come about?
The dog company originally was formed in Liverpool, which is where Clive and Doug Bradley were from. And then they moved down to London, which is when I got involved with them. I was at drama school with Nick, so Nick and I have known each other for years. So it was while I was at drama school, Clive came to the production of King Lear, and liked what I was doing, asked to meet me afterwards, and then invited me to join the dog company when I graduated. So it was interesting because it had obviously Clive was writing and performing at that time as well, which he very quickly gave up and decided he just wanted to concentrate on writing. But he was also the director for the first few productions that we did. And then they started getting in other directors, outside directors too. We did a production of Frankenstein in Love, I think was one of the first ones I did, which was interesting because a lot of the themes he was exploring as an unknown fringe theatre writer ended up being in Hellraiser and a lot of the other stuff that he's written about. So Frankenstein in Love had a skinned man in it, and we actually had a skinned man effect, which was a whole bodysuit that this actor had to put on, and the actor in it, who in the skinned man was actually Oliver Parker, who's now a film director in his own rights and has done loads and loads of work, and has actually written the screenplay for Thief of Always, which I know is they're hoping to do one day.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, a lot of people are asking for that one to come, and I know Ollie's been working on that one for a long time and has got a producer now, has just been doing some rewrites so they can make the characters more interesting for star names, because that's how films get made these days, is you get a big star name attracted to a part. So they're just kind of altering some of the parts. Well, I probably shouldn't be saying any of this, but hey, there you go. I have.
Yeah. I know one that I always wanted to see was In the Hills, the Cities. That was one of my favorite stories. And that whole concept of the giants walking, I mean, that just, I always wanted to see that out of his stories. And I thought at one point they were going to be, I thought they were, and I saw like a thing, and then I didn't see any more.
It's interesting with Candyman making a lot of money at the box office.
Yeah.
Hellraiser, the kind of reboot, being has wrapped now as they finish filming in Serbia. I think some big studio execs are finally realizing that there's a lot of there's a wonderful seam of gold that is yet to be mined, and that is Clive Barker. And there's so many things that could be so good, as long as they give them the good budgets, which they seem to be with at the moment. So hopefully that will continue.
Nice. So I have another question. You've all managed to create some of the most terrifying, iconic characters. Can you tell me a little bit about the process that you go through to transform yourself into? Because I mean, I get lost in them, when I watch them. I mean, what do you tap into? I guess I could start with this time. I'll start with you, Nick, and then I'll move kind of around the room. Yeah.
Well, funny enough, I wrote a whole one-man show in answer to that question, called
Nice.
I Am Monsters, which I put on 2019. It was a London Horror Festival, and then I did it at in Las Vegas with Clive in the audience. It was literally talking about the history of the Chatra, and I've written short stories, in fact 2 short stories about the origin of the Chatra character, my idea of a background of the character, and so on. I mean, in terms, I mean, you know, the very brief answer is Clive invited me to do a role. He said there'd be some makeup involved. Which I swear, Simon, you've said, you told a similar story, didn't you? That he said there'd be some makeup involved.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah,
who knows what we were actually signing up for.
Yes.
Be careful what you wish for.
I think actually, funnily enough, of the 3 of us, I was the only one who knew what the heck I was getting into.
Yes.
And yet even I didn't, you know, I wasn't prepared for 6 hours in the makeup chair, you know, and which is really very uncomfortable. But, you know, it's continue. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, yeah, so basically, we are, there will be more news about I Am Monsters, I hope, spring of next year. So there are more plans afoot for that. But yeah, so I mean, literally it was a story I have talked about, the background about basically that the design of Chatra came out of a conversation I had with Clive. The first thing I knew about the way it was going to look was when I saw the sculpture that it was. I'd done the live cast, and then I saw the sculpture that had been done over my live cast of my head and shoulders. And that's really when I had a fair idea. Oh, I mean, they had warned me I wouldn't be able to see very much when my first day when I came to the makeup. So the process was really just about learning what I could, for me, about learning what I could do in the makeup. You know, I could walk, I could walk, I couldn't see, couldn't hear, couldn't do it, couldn't speak.
You could chatter.
I could chatter my teeth, yes. That was, I used to practice that in the bathroom mirror as part of my process. That was it, really. Somebody who described it as a very restrained performance. And I said, yeah, I couldn't move. But that, I think that's what you do as an actor. You know, you learn, you know, you learn the limitations that you have to deal with, and just give it your best shot to, you know, think about what it is you're trying to do and trying to express. But I just do as I was told, basically. I did what Clive told me.
Oh, thank you. I just got a message from John Dugan. He's having technical difficulties there. He's having a hard time getting back in, unfortunately. I will definitely do this again. I want to do something like, or you can do this again. I apologize to John for that. Barbie, how about you? What did, it was Hellraiser 2. What was your process? I mean, how did you embrace that character?
Well, well, first I read the original novella on which the film franchise is based on, and I was very interested to see that the lead Cenobite was female. Clive actually had 3 strong female characters in the original book. But no, it was basically a lot of it is down to the incredible makeup design and all this sort of stuff. You have to understand, this is 1988. And at the same time I was filming, I was also presenting a film review program on ITV as part of a 3-hour-long thing called the Night Network. So I was going and sort of going to film shows and video shows and reviewing the films. And I had enormous 80s hair. It was like red, colored aubergine red. It was huge. So it was an enormous, I was going through the whole makeup process. They didn't ask me to shave my head, which some people actually did once for a robot part that I didn't get. But the idea of just looking in the mirror for the first time with that makeup on and the prosthetic makeup that is glued to your face, and you can't, your skin isn't breathing, and the, you know, and all the tests they do with the costume and stuff like that. I looked at that and I went, where's me? I couldn't see me at all, except for my lips, you know, and my eyes. And bless her, Ashley said, that's why they cast you. Look at those lips, which I thought was very sweet. But no, it's kind of bizarre, especially for a woman to see, look and see, you know, a bald person with a huge, dubious wound in their throat and all this metal in their face. But that, in many ways, informed the performance, as well as knowing what Clive was thinking about in the story, and that helps. But it's so there's a wonderful story about Alec Guinness. He said, I can never get the character until I knew what kind of shoes he wore. I had to get the shoes and the walk, and it was sort of like a down from the bottom up performance. With me anyway, it was the looking into the mirror and seeing this and letting that go through. So it was a, you know, outside in performance. But you know, it is a very powerful look, and it is empowering to walk around in all that leather, love, and you know, and it is basically sadomasochist from hell. So it's you feel very empowered. And luckily I could see, because really, when you think about it, Doug was wearing black contact lenses, right, guys?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys.
Effects were very gloomy, so Doug couldn't really see either.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And, you know, I was the only one who really could see where they were going. And even then it was a bit difficult. But no, so it was interesting, very interesting. And again, you're looking like that, knowing that, you know, you're not a girl running through the forest in a boob tube being chased by some guy with a chainsaw. You know, I'm the monster.
Right.
And that's pretty cool. You know, it is very cool. Tremble before me.
Nice. Thank you. And
I think as a woman, you had to look a certain way.
I'm sorry?
As a woman, where it's just you, I see these magazines where you see women, you know, look a certain way. Like you said, the boob tube running through the woods it was totally, totally different. And I'm not a small person. I would find that absolutely terrifying. I just remember as a kid, you know, you see, you know, you're expecting to walk down the alley and then you turn and then you're right there. It was absolutely terrifying, completely different.
Well, I think all the Cenobites, you know, as I mentioned before, you know, Clive created a totally new type of monster.
Yes.
I also wanted to
nobody
ask,
knew quite how to take
the 80s hair, that must have looked glorious, by the way. I can picture it now, the 80s hair.
Yeah.
It seemed like a good idea at the time. I might have bought my crazy color from Simon himself, because at one point in the early, weren't you selling crazy color?
Yeah, I used to work on Camden Market in London. It was the only place you could buy really crazy colored hair dye in those days.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely.
But paths may have crossed back then. Anyway, sorry. Right.
No. And Simon, the two characters that with you, it's quite a contrast. You have Butterball, and then, you know, the Butterball, and then the other character in Nightbreed, which also, Nicholas, you were Kaczynski. Kinski. It was, I mean, you were completely out of makeup with the dog in Nightbreed, and then you were like completely transformed in as Butterball. What's your I mean, it was amazing to me how you were able to do that.
I think the whole process as an actor is you kind of read the script and you get an idea, you get a feel of what you think the writer is trying to achieve, and then you talk to the director and hopefully that you find you're on the same kind of paths, and so you kind of play around with your imagination as to work. And what Barbie was saying about the prosthetics, I've been lucky enough since to work on quite a few different faces, have a few different faces, and that whole thing of being able to look in the mirror and see a completely different person looking back at you is so liberating. Because as human beings, we're very used to looking in a mirror and seeing ourselves. And when you're performing, it's quite hard to see yourself, because all I see anyway is my faults. I see all the faults and everything. Oh, why did I do that? Why did you do that? Why did I look like that? But if you're looking at a completely different person, those roles I love, because I don't see that at all. I don't really know this person apart from the work that I've put in and the writer put in. So that's interesting. As far as the Nightbreed, I think Clive took pity on me after the Hellraisers, because Nick and I went through such hell. It was such an extraordinary period in our lives, and thankfully we were both very young, so we could put up with it. Now, I'm not so sure, because it was thick makeup. It was Nick and I we couldn't see, we couldn't breathe through our noses, we could virtually not hear. So it was like sensory deprivation from, I've said this so many times, but from like 7 in the morning until sometimes 8 at night, just sitting in your own little universe. It was so claustrophobic. It was horrendous. So I think, and I did cry a couple of times in there, because
no one heard you cry.
And nobody heard me. Yeah.
Actually, no, we heard. We just ignored him.
Nobody can hear you scream. So yeah, Clive took pity. He brought some Jack Daniels for us all one day to kind of say sorry for having kept us in this horrendous makeups for ages. And I think he felt very sorry for me. So in Nightbreed, he gave me this role where, I mean, I did have a fair amount of makeup, because I had tattoos all over my body.
Yes.
Whereas these dudes, they put them on a silicone and they just kind of press them on, and there they are. Back in 1990, when we did Nightbreed, they were hand painted. So every day I had to go and sit and have some lovely ladies hand paint tattoos all over my body. But it was a lot more pleasant. I could still eat an egg, bacon, bap. I could still, go to the canteen. I could still those things that we weren't allowed to do in the prosthetics. So it was good. Plus, I didn't have to turn up on set till 8, whereas you guys were on set.
Luxury.
Yeah, because I had to be on set. I had to be in makeup for Kinski. I had to be in makeup at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
For 5 hours. For 5 hours to, but as as I said, and Simon's pointed out as well, it's like that's fine. All I had to do was sit still and stay awake. The guys who were really working were the 2 makeup artists who were creating the makeup. So yeah, I think they had the worst of it in terms of physicality and what they were actually doing.
They are the unsung heroes of the horror industry, or any industry that works in aesthetics, because they are up at 3 a.m. If we start at 4, they're up at 3. Oh no, they're up. They're starting work at 3 to prep everything for when the actor arrives, and then they work all the way through the day, making sure the makeup looks perfect and that anything that's starting to peel away is glued back on. And then at the end of the day, when everybody else goes home, we all go back to the makeup chair because it's super glued to our face, and they gradually
super glue. It's not
super
glue.
Nowadays, Hellraiser was surgical super glue.
No, it was. No.
And then they off, and then they have to clean after we've gone. So there's another hour after everybody else is wrapped. They then have to clean everything down and prep everything for the next day. Sometimes they were getting like 3 hours between like days of work. It was horrendous for them. And then they are very unsung, and they are wonderful people, and their work is amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So just to defend our makeup friends, it wasn't super glue. I know, because they did use super glue on the Chatra at one point.
No, it's not. Wow. It's surgical super glue.
Surgical glue.
These days they don't use it. They use Prosade, but back in the 80s they used surgical super glue, which is what they used.
Well, surgical.
It was actually
surgical glue.
It was actually developed during the Vietnam War as a battle dressing. The medics would land in the helicopters. Guys would have, terrible wounds, and they would pour in this medical adhesive and press the wound together, and it would stay together until they got them to the hospital. I mean, this is what I was told by the guys.
No, you're absolutely right. It's just to be. I know it was not super glue for the actual makeup, because as I say, they did actually end up by using super glue in the Chatra makeup, for a very small part of it. But I can't stand the smell of super glue to this day. Wow. It triggers me to go back to the days when I used to have super glue fumes going into my eyeballs of Chatra. Yeah.
My days of glue sniffing are well over as well.
So it's like super glue PTSD.
Actually, funnily enough, I did a commercial with who were they? Oh God, something and something. They were very famous.
Sachi?
No. Oh,
Reese
Cream,
Jones.
Godly and Cream.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a commercial for Wrangler jeans, and the choreographer. I got the choreographer his job. His name is Bruno Tonioli. You may know him now from Strictly Come Dancing.
In the UK,
yeah. No, he's an American star now.
Oh, really? He's of course Strictly American, yeah.
Oh, he's cross everybody. But we were robotic mimes doing this stuff. I had to crochet, and then I had to fall on my bottom doing a tango. That was great. No, nothing. I just had to, learn how to do it so I don't break my coccyx. But they had just made these masks, these latex masks, and I just remember pulling it over my head, trying to see out of these little pinpricks, and the smell, that same. If I ever smelled that again, it was like poo. Because they just made them that morning. They didn't even have time to air them out. There you go. Oh, it's just fun.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, when it comes to, you mentioned super glue. Last month we had to go film on location. We're out at a cemetery, a very old one. I would always, my zombie character, Buzzkiller, he has a scab on his face. I made it out of latex. Originally it was a exposed bone, but the latex kept growing around it, and because it was just like leaked over, and I decided to just turn into a scab. Well, I suddenly developed an allergic reaction to latex. I woke up and there's always blisters on my face after doing it. It was starting to burn too.
Oh, that's not good.
I had to figure out some other way to glue that on, and I tried a lot of different things. I tried using, because I play a vampire too, and I use Fixodent to glue those fangs in. I tried gluing on with Fixodent. We're riding out there. We had to stop at a Dollar General and I had to buy some super glue, and I tried gluing on with that. But we're filming. No! It really slipped and slid off, but the character I play, it was never really mentioned, but the reason compared to the other two, he stands with a funny posture is because he has a curved spine. He has like a weird posture. He could barely straighten his back out most of the time, but I had my head cocked a lot trying to make sure it didn't slide off. So I recently started
your friend.
Well, I recently started experimenting. I was like, I need to figure out some other way to do this. So I tried paper towels with fake blood and cornstarch. Well, it fell off a few times. I used cotton balls. It stuck a little better. You still have to really put a blow dryer on and get that to dry good though, or else it'll just keep falling off. But it stuck better, so I stuck with that later this season, and that was hard doing that. I had to keep when we were out there filming, I had to keep the super, or not super, it was Elmer's glue is what it was. I had to use that just stuck on there. I was getting hard
Elmer's glue. You could eat Elmer's glue.
Yes, we used to.
It wouldn't hurt you.
Yep.
I think, right?
Elementary school. We loved Elmer's glue. We just sat there and peeled it off, and
Oh no! You're thinking rubber cement.
Oh, right. Oh, yes. Okay.
I was going to suggest, because I was going to suggest rubber cement.
Bounce it across the classroom and annoy your teacher. Sorry, this is so.
Well, when I was a kid, there's this one kid. He decided he's going to try to sniff Elmer's glue, and he got stuck up there. I'm just kidding.
Speaking of
I have no
PTSD,
idea what Elmer's glue is, but it sounds really painful.
Oh, it's a kid-friendly glue. It's what they use in elementary schools, and you
Yeah,
do
or
your
crap
careful little
like that.
projects together.
like
Yes.
Copy Picks.
is
Copy
I
Dex is the
was
rubber
the Tin Man
solution,
and
isn't
Wizard
it?
of Oz, and
Okay.
we were in grade school, and I was playing the Tin Man because I was like this tall, lanky kid. So they take silver spray paint and they cover me in silver spray paint.
Oh,
Keep in
jeez.
mind, this is in grade school. They took a what is it? What is it? The thing that you pour gas in.
Yeah. Yeah. A gas can.
A gas can.
I'm trying to think.
On
of
a
it.
funnel.
What's the thing you pour it into?
Oh,
Yeah,
a
funnel.
funnely thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a funnel. So they take a funnel, they duct tape it to the top of my head. So I'm literally sitting there trying to peel this thing off of my head.
That's funny.
It
That's,
is really.
a friend of mine, because I sort of, I had blue hair and red hair and all this sort of stuff, and I bumped into somebody. We all were members of this. This is before I started getting roles, but I was a member of the Ugly Agency, which is basically background artists, extras or something. Want some punks, you get them, call up Ugly. And this guy, I was talking to him, and his hair was like really, really short. And he used to have like this huge sort of Mohican-y thing. And I said, "Oh gosh, what's happened to your hair?" And he said, "I made the worst mistake in my life. I thought it'd be a really good idea to use car spray paint. And I had metallic blue hair, and it looked amazing. And then it all fell off.
Oh,
It fell off,
Wow.
and because it was car paint. Hello. Never use car paint on your hair.
Oh.
Horrible.
But hey, it was the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I had a Mohican in the 80s. I had a Mohican, but we made it out of soap. You just had soap, and you put soap in it.
Yes.
And made it
Wow.
Soap or sugar water?
Sugar water, yeah.
I swear Simon and I were at school with a guy called Connor. I swear he used to use sugar water.
Well,
I remember him
sugar
telling.
water.
I remember him telling the story of having a coxcomb and walking down the street, and then a really strong breeze coming along and just blowing the whole thing off the top of his head. So it was laid out on the path behind him, just like all his hair lying on the ground behind him. Yeah.
So I have another question. You guys have done such a great job scaring us. What scares you, Simon?
Texas Chainsaw
Question.
Sorry?
That was the movie that scared me the most. It's a shame John's not here because it really did. That was my ultimate scare.
Mm-hmm.
But heights, I'm terrified of heights. Really, really terrified of heights. So,
Yeah.
Hold on, you went on that horrible. Well, no, you loved it, but the roller coaster ride.
I love going on roller coasters, but I am terrified of heights. Roller coasters feel safe. Whereas I've just been on holiday in Wales, and we were walking along all these cliff-top walks, and they were so vertiginous. They were awful. They were terrifying. I could hardly walk along them. Just these drops coming down. Sorry, there's a bit of Les Mis coming, being played at great volume through the window here. I don't know if you can hear it. Hopefully not.
Yep. So I am going to have another one of these. I'll have John on again, and I'll definitely invite anybody to hear to be with him. Definitely be with him. It'll be a lot smoother than the way things were today. And so Barbie, what scares you?
Well, I'm kind of an anxious, catastrophizing person anyway. Okay. So, but I think I've written a series of short stories, and two of them were for volumes called Phobia. It was Phobophobias and Phobophobia, and one I wrote called Gaia, and it was like I thought uranophobia, fear of the god of the sky. How does I turn that? But my I managed to turn that, because I got the letter U and I was stuck with it, into a story about home invasion, because that scares me. The thought of people breaking into your house, they know you're in there.
Yeah.
And they're coming in anyway, and they will, it's like, it's what Richard Ramirez, I think a new TV show has just come out about the Night Stalker and what he used to get up to, and he would just do the same thing. I mean, this is why I wrote a book about a serial killer, because even though I'm fascinated by them, it's called The Venus Complex.
Oh.
Now an audiobook narrated by Doug Bradley. Because serial killers, they scare me, but they also fascinate me, because I know I could never be one, except for certain people that I'd love to. No, I'm only kidding. But, they fascinated me. I mean, the real monsters for me are human beings,
Yes.
But I would have to say home invasion. I was looking, for some reason, I was looking at different spiders, and I found some spiders that were just so, oh my God. And yet they make these beautiful webs. They're so beautiful. And then they're so, they're alien. Yes. Anything alien, I think. But,
Arachnophobia, great movie with Jeff Daniels.
That film, and Julian Sands, right? That film, I was actually watching it, and I had to jump up from my seat and jump up and down screaming, because I was so horrified by that. But it's when Julian Sands, I think it is, our mate Julian, he sets these gases up, and then you hear just this plop, 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 and he's got this big net, and all these spiders are falling from the trees.
Yes.
And they come back to life again. But anyway, so that's. I've got other things, I'm sure. But
oh well, thank you. And Nicholas, how about you?
I was really trying to think hard, because I used to. I probably still am scared of heights. But I remember going through times in my life where I'd like thinking, "Oh, I'm scared of heights." That's a really good barometer as to my kind of general well-being, depending on how high up I can go. Because I remember realizing that I'd gone up to it was in a big house, and they had a gallery in the center of the house. And I was on the second floor, and I suddenly realized I couldn't look down from there. So I thought, right, I'm going to overcome this. So I took myself to the Eiffel Tower and got myself to, and it was terrifying. It was absolutely, but after about an hour at the top, I thought, right, I've dealt with that now. That
you know
was
what?
Decades ago. So I'm thinking about what, but I think the thing is funny, picking up on what Barbie says. I really am not good with octopuses.
They're beautiful.
No, in that case you didn't watch 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, the Disney version with Kurt Douglas, and it's like, I don't know, that giant squid thing.
See, I've got a terrible crush on James.
It's the way they moved and the sinuous. Yeah, I cannot deal with those whatsoever. Just
want to say, actually, I'm not only afraid of heights as well, but also flying. So, like Nicholas did very bravely, I thought, Nicholas well on to go to the top of the Eiffel Tower, because I've been to the top of the Eiffel Tower and it's really scary. But I thought, I'm going to conquer my fear of flying and of heights by going skydiving.
Nice. Oh, wow.
I got about 5 seconds training. I'm up. They sort of throw me out on the static line. I was like, Rah! And I looked down and I saw the parachute opening up between my feet.
Oh, whoa.
Which meant that I'm actually going head first down to the ground.
Oh,
so when the parachute opens, I get like this, my body whips around, and I'm just lying there going, oh, I'm in so much pain. Oh, this is bad. And then I reach up to try and steer it with the toggle thingies, and I'm too short. I couldn't actually reach to control it. So I had to jump up in my harness, which they tell you it's painful for guys to have a harness between your legs. It's also painful for girls. But so the moral of the story is, sometimes it's really brave and great to confront your fears. Other times it would have been better to stand down there on the ground and go, wow, look, there's my friends up there doing that. And the really stupid thing is I did it again the next week and I screwed up my knee for like ever because I landed badly. I did it twice. I mean, how stupid is that? But anyway, it's a cautionary tale.
And yet,
no,
this is the same.
It's not.
This is the same Barbie Wilde that I went on the Simpsons ride with at Universal Studios, which is a simulated roller coaster. And she's sitting next to me going, oh, tell me this isn't real. Tell me this isn't real.
It's not real.
Yeah, and I was just to say, I might have the bruise marks on my my wrist from when if you sit next to her on the plane. And
you don't want to sit next to me on a plane.
No, to be fair, you've got a lot better, Barbie. You're much better at flying.
I just put on. Funnily enough, that is the one time where I actually enjoy watching horror movies because I'm surrounded by people, and the screen is small, so I can deal with it. And I saw quite a few horror movies on the plane. I mean, I obviously prefer movies with Tom Hiddleston or Pierce Brosnan or something. But I saw Hereditary and I saw A Quiet Place on the plane, and that was good. I could handle it, so.
And that was an amazing segue because that's exactly what I was going to ask next was horror movies and what you really like, what you really liked. So that was the next. So Simon, what are some of your favorite horror movies? I know you mentioned Texas Chainsaw, but
oh gosh, Texas Chainsaw. I like Jeepers Creepers. I like that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that movie.
Similar to Texas Chainsaw in some ways. I watched Quiet Place 2 recently, which I enjoyed too. I like them all. I'm not a great fan of anything too graphic, so Saw is kind of on the edge of what I find that I can watch.
I like the original Saw. It's more of a psychological thriller. So the first Saw wasn't bad. It was after that.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Where it's like they could survive, and then after John dies, it's like, well, they're gonna die. There's no getting out of that one.
American Horror Story. I love that series. I think.
Oh
great.
yes.
I think they're wonderful, all of them. So yeah, I'm a great fan of them as well.
Nice. Freak Show is my favorite out of that so far. I really enjoyed that a lot. That was really good. And the cult one was a little too close to home for me. I mean, that probably went beyond when I got to the staple gun scene with the guy's head, that went, you're just there in the room watching it, and you feel it was so up close and personal. That went. I'm with you, Barb. The humans being the monsters is really terrifying. That is to me. Like, I've been studying. I love studying real life horror. And the Final Victim. Have you read the book The Final Victim by that? Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore. But he actually was writing to Gacy, the clown, and Gacy paid off the guards to not be there, and so he was alone in the room with Gacy, and Gacy's hands were actually around his throat during that one, and he actually felt the actual pressure on his neck, and he talked about how that was the most terrifying moment for him at that point, because he really felt like he was the final victim, because Gacy didn't do that, but yeah, that's
this is why I actually find enormous comfort in black and white movies from the 50s and 60s. There's a film called The Innocence, which is, I love ghost stories. The Innocence is a fantastic ghost story with Deborah Carr, but also sci-fi horror, from sort of the thing from Another World, The Day the Earth Stood Still, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original one with Kevin McCarthy. Those things, we would watch them on afternoon TV. My brother said, we got to watch it because the whole family, my father and my brother anyway, my mother, like innocent stories, but they love sci-fi. So we watched a lot of sci-fi horror. And then the transition to the 80s with Alien. Carpenter's thing. I mean, those things scared the poop out of me. I had bad dreams before I saw the first Thing movie. You know, I just, I hadn't even seen it yet, and I was imagining how horrible it was.
What was it? The Exorcist was considered one of the scariest movies of all time, and it's just an older horror movie.
But it was very effective. I actually went to see that with my anthropology professor, believe it or not.
Nice.
And he was saying, "Oh God, the way they're doing that dig in the beginning is terrible." You know, it's okay. Sort of like being with my father doing the Poseidon Adventure, and he's like whispering, "The only time a ship turned around like this and went on its, over like that was in Norway, in 1947." You know, Dad, stop. It's Gene Hackman. But but I don't know. I think that other films like Psycho, American Psycho, these again are great horror movies. And I want to do a special little mention for a couple of filmmakers that are wonderful friends of mine. Called
Psycho based off again? Norman Bates, I think it was. Norman Bates was Psycho. Ed Gein was based off of Leatherface, was based off of Ed Gein, and
Ed Gein,
Buffalo Bill.
And then it was based off of Pogo the Clown or Gacy, as Chris mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I think one of the guys who caught Gacy actually got a painting of clowns from him. But no, I just wanted to do a special mention.
Please do. Please do a shout out to who you're talking to.
To Jen and Sylvia Soska with American Mary and their brilliant reimagining of Cronenberg's Rabid.
Yes.
And of course, David Cronenberg, he's kind of like a genre himself. I mean, talk about body horror. But anyway,
and his like button face, he played that character as the doc. Oh my! Him standing in the end of the hall, just walking towards him during that one scene was absolutely that was phenomenal. I love that. That was so good. So Nicholas, how about you?
Well, I kind of grew up. When I say grew, I mean, it was like Barbie. I suppose I started out with, my gateway drugs were the Universal horror films with Frankenstein, Wolfman, and so on. And then I graduated to Roger Corman, and I became a huge fan of Vincent Price.
Yes.
And the Edgar Allan Poe, Vincent Price, Roger Corman films. Those are, kind of my favorites. The one that scared me the most was Vincent Price in Diary of a Madman.
Wow.
And that is a kind of a lesser known one, and I actually caught it eventually, and it's not that scary, but I didn't finish the film when I watched it late at night. And therefore, I always had, whenever I watch films, I have to watch them to the end. Because if I don't watch them to the end, then my mind's going to just spin stories. I will dream. I don't tend to dream. I have nightmares. I have plenty of nightmares. But I'm okay watching a horror film as long as I get to the very end. Even if I have to fast forward it to the very end, I can watch horror films. But yeah, I think it was Diary of a Madman. Which is, and I couldn't watch it, and it just got too scary. I was alone in the house on my own, which is really rare. This is when I was kind of in my late teens, and my parents, the rest of the family, I think, were away on holiday, and I was by myself. That was very unusual. And I think, the combination of those things, that was probably the scariest film I've ever, that's probably, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because Simon, you were talking about Jeepers Creepers. I love that film as well. And I was going to just do a quick shout out for my show, The Chattering Hour, where I've got to interview people who've worked on things like Saw and so on, and Jonathan Breck, who plays the Creeper in Jeepers Creepers, and so on. And it's really, I find it absolutely fascinating as we are now, talking to people, from behind the scenes of all these stories. And I have to say, I like the Saw series. I like the fact that the Saw series picks up a minute after the previous one, or quarter of an hour or half an hour after the previous one ends, and you can actually just watch all these films. And it takes an awful lot to make a movie, so I'm always tremendously admiring of people who can actually bring a feature film together. But to Lynn Shay from the Insidious movies is who I'm thinking about, those things. So I like yourself, I just like watching horror films and so on, but actually talking to the people behind them, find it absolutely fascinating.
You mentioned Saw. I'm thinking of The Rack. I don't know if you ever seen The Rack in Saw, where they got that guy tied up and you just see his arms twisting and his legs twisting, and it's just
The hypodermic needle scene was the one that got me, when she had to dive into that pool with all the needles and get to the
it was actually the other guy. It was the really buff guy, and he actually ends up picking her up and just chucking her in the pit.
There are things. But I have to say, the one that the horror movie series I like, I love Scream. I just think Scream is, and again, I can't wait to see the new one.
That's going to be amazing. And have you guys seen the new Halloween?
No, I haven't. Not yet.
Yep. Not yet. I highly recommend it. And I won't do any spoilers by any means, but all I have to say is it's anybody who's a fan of the first one, it is absolutely amazing. If I was rooting, I always root for the monsters anyway. I don't want to, so that was cool.
Well, Jason Voorhees is a tank. Like, he makes me look small.
Yeah.
Where I think it was, I'm thinking of where the guy's on the cot, and he literally he takes the cot, folds the guy literally in half. It's just...
that back-breaking scene you're talking about, that is that was in one of the Friday the 13th movies. I can't remember which one that. Jason,
Jason, whenever he stabs the guy's laying on his belly and he stabs him with the machete, and then he folds that bed up.
That's the one.
That's Freddy versus Jason.
Freddy versus Jason. Yeah, that was quite a scene. Well, I'm really happy that everything finally came together. I never got to the trivia, but there's one trivia question that I would really love to hear. And Barbie, you mentioned that you had one, and I didn't get a chance to ask any trivia questions, and I'd love to hear your,
Well, can we just do one little plug before my question?
Yes, please do.
Simon and Nick and I have been in. We have appeared in one episode altogether in a TV series called Dark Ditties Presents for Amazon Prime, and that was called The Offer. And then a new one is coming out. There are how many episodes?
There will be 6, but number 5 is the one that's about to come out.
Yeah, number 5 is about to come out. That's got a fantastic cast. Simon is awesome in it. I have a small part as a hard-bitten, and God, do I look hard-bitten, journalist. But just I don't know if you guys ever saw a film called Extra.
Extra.
Oh, this was one of the first video nasties from the 80s. And the guy who played the monster in that, and he's also in Star Wars, Tim Dry, plays an adherent to a rather evil character who has a spectacular moment. What's that? Dad. It's called Dad. Nice. There you go.
Thank you.
And so that was tremendous fun. I mean, less Dark Ditties, because they brought me back into acting after many years. So that was a lot of fun to do. I have a one trivia question, and I don't. It's for about 6. How was your 60s horror, guys?
We're about to find out.
Exactly.
Okay. What Bond actress featured in an early 1960s black and white horror movie? I have clues.
Okay.
I can picture somebody, and I can't find a name.
Yeah.
It's directed by the director who also did, bizarrely, The Sound of Music, West Side Story, but he also did The Day the Earth Stood Still, one of my favorites.
Nice.
Hey, can you think of the film?
I've now got, I think I can think of two Bond actresses that have appeared in horror films.
Well, in my Bond films, I've only seen a few. One thing I'm tempted. The only thing I could say is Britt Eckland, but I don't think that'd be it.
No, I was thinking Caroline Munro.
Funnily enough, Britt Eckland was in a horror movie called The Wicker Man.
That's my favorite foreign film.
Yes.
Oh, funnily enough, I have such issues with that film. I once read what I thought a very amusing review of it, but I've actually seen it on the big screen, and I don't understand its attraction, but I totally salute anybody who likes it.
Well,
now, Britt Eckland she was a Bond girl, and she was in a horror movie, but that was The Man with the Golden Gun. And I'm not sure, when was Wicker Man? That was in the 70s, wasn't it?
73. That was 73.
Okay, so we're not talking 1963. The original story was by a brilliant writer called Shirley Jackson, who also wrote a little ditty called The Lottery. Terrifying. The film also stars someone from West Side Story called Russ Tamblyn.
Oh, House on Haunted Hill.
Close. Yeah,
The Haunting of Hill House.
The Haunting of Hill House, but the movie is called The Haunting, but who's the Bond girl in it? No, she's not a Bond girl. She's a Bond actress. That's a clue. We're talking 60s here.
You'll have to tell us.
We're talking Sean Connery here. Oh my God, I can't believe
Sean Connery was not a woman.
Sean Connery, James Bonds. Okay, I'll put you out of your wretched miseries, guys.
Please.
Okay, because I have to say, The Haunting is one of my favorite ghost stories ever. It still is, I think, holds up.
I love that movie.
And lovely Richard Johnson's in it, Julie Harris. And Richard Johnson's wife comes to visit, and there's this bit where Julie Harris is going up that horrible creaking spiral staircase, and the wife is lost in the house, opens up this trap door and sticks her head in. Julie Harris, and that woman was played by Lois Maxwell.
Oh.
Who was played Miss
Moneypenny.
Miss Moneypenny.
Moneypenny. It's probably the only other thing she ever did other than play Miss Moneypenny. But I guess that was pretty obscure trivia, huh?
That's a great trivia question.
Judi Dench must have done a horror film at some point.
Well, here's the thing. Everybody's talking about Bond. You go on YouTube and it's like, whoa, Bond. So I just thought it was a nice, fusion of horror and Bond. So there you go.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm more like Pierce Brosnan, like Daniel Craig, like the newer generation of Bond.
So you prefer them?
Yes.
Probably more familiar.
I don't prefer them, but that's what I remember watching.
Yeah, I was going to say, at your age, you weren't around for the originals coming out.
So I feel like I have a little bit of a disadvantage here.
Yeah.
I grew up on Roger Moore myself, and Roger Moore and Sean Connery. Those are the ones that I grew up watching. Yeah.
No, I wasn't allowed to watch James Bond movies when I was a nipper. I just got to watch all those scare that living poop out of me sci-fi films with my brother and son.
I used to get up late at night and turn on the TV and watch Benny Hill at midnight. That was fun. I love the little slapping of that little guy.
Guys, I'm gonna have to leave. I'm gonna have to leave you.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. It's been such an honor, and I really want to. I'm looking forward in the future. I mean, Barbie, you and I talked about doing something in the near future. I would love. I'm looking forward to that. That would be wonderful.
Possibly. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right then, guys.
Okay.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, Nico. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have to talk about it because I've suddenly got a lot of stuff on my
Well, that is perfectly fine. And thank you so much, everybody, for
Can I just say something really quick while you guys are still here?
Sure.
I am such a big fan, and thank you for doing this with me. And you guys are so relatable because that's how I know you guys as Butterball, or that. But you guys are very relatable. Where I remember going to the back room and picking up horror magazines and reading Stephen King and stuff like that. So I appreciate you guys doing that, where it's like I have absolutely nothing in common with these two famous horror icons. So thanks for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
But that's how I started as well, just looking at Fangoria magazine, and that's how I got to know it all. So
yeah. Well, listen, you guys, take care.
Yeah.
And
thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Chris, for inviting me.
Oh, well, thank you very much for being here. I really wish the beginning had been a little less chaotic, but I'm happy that everything fell together. Nice.
Well, I think everybody was a bit unfamiliar with this method of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Method of stuff.
If I could add one thing, check out Ghoul World Order, my channel on YouTube. It's on Facebook also. Should be another one
what's
coming
it called?
up. Ghoul, Ghoul. World, WORLD. Order, ORDER. You can find that. You can find us on Facebook.
That's
white
very
skull
good.
with the black
I
letters,
like that.
GWO. Yeah, like I was saying earlier before we went live, it's like Wayne's World with talking zombies, and that's why I had that scab on my face. Plus, I also played a vampire.
Sounds like a no-brainer. No-brainer.
Well, it's a fun one, and we did some wild stuff this season. I mean, it's horror comedy. It gets silly. I mean, it's funny.
And this is on YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube, yes, and Facebook.
And Facebook.
You can find there's a pinned post with our promo on the wall, our Facebook wall. You'll find that there.
I just want to say something, by the way, before Nicholas interrupted me. Is that I had only started watching for some bizarre reason when you said Benny Hill. We were watching Benny Hill videos because this Benny Hill thing popped up on YouTube, and he was very funny. I mean, not politically correct at all, but it's just very synchronicitous. Anyway, you guys, you take care of yourselves.
Will do.
And we will. And thank you so much again for inviting us on, Chris.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, and we hope you have a wonderful happy Halloween, everybody.
You too.
Oh yeah. Happy Halloween.
I'll speak to you tomorrow.
Okay, sweetheart.
Okay. All right. Okay.
How do I get out of this? Do I just hit the little telephony thing?
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yep.
Now you're not allowed to talk about me when I'm gone, okay?
Okay. Right.
Only good things. Only good things.
Thanks.
Okay.
Cheers,
Take
guys.
care, Alan. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks
Bye-bye.
again. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Thank you, Simon, too. Thank you.